Hola, hola. Ahí sí, ¿no? Ahora sí me escuchan. Me gusta eso. Mira acá. PC. PC. ¿Y esa? ¿Ya empezó? Me imagino que empieza un rato. Voy a comprar acá pociones de yesca. Yesca, yesca. Voy a poner musiquita. Musiquilla para la gente. Enano. Precio. Mm. 100. ¿Dónde era? Allá. Está bien eso. Esos se paran, viejo. Uy, se me fue. Estoy aquí, estoy farmeando. Ah, ya sé que me voy a ir a hacer. Voy a ir a hacerme la quest de esta de lo de los Lizard. ¿Cómo se llama? Black Swan creo que se llamaba. A ver, déjame ver. Juan no recuerda nivel 28. Swan, Black Swan. Pues después, 32. Yo voy a estar hasta nivel 32. Pingo voy a estar. Solamente eso. Los dos nomás hay acá. No, oye, qué súper conveniente esta cosa. Se va y se pone ahí detrás. Optimé mal ese 4. No me subió el volumen de esto. Sí, viejo, especialmente el del L2. Está pues. Ahí está. Ahí está bien, ¿no? Eso. Porque le vamos a subir tanto el volumen ahí. Basta con que se escuche bien. YouTube, vamos a subirle un poquito de volumen. Uy, 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 uy. Mira. Hasta un rato me descuidé de la mierda. Se la va a usted.
Amiga culi suelta que le dando, anda con su amiga culi suelta que le dando, anda con su amiga culi suelta que le dando, anda con su amiga culi suelta que le dando. Dale, no seas tímida, rompe abusadora, quiebra tu cintura, rompe abusadora, quiebra tu cintura, dale, no seas tímida, abusadora, rompe tu cintura con tu pum 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 pum, rompe abusadora, con tu pum 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 pum, rompe abusadora.
Ahí está, ¿no? Ahí, ahí vamos a darle. Hierba superior. Ahí está.
Voy perreando, estoy perreando, la nota sube elevando, pao, estoy perreando, sigo perreando, la irregular sigo dando, activa no quiero dormir, vacilando quiero seguir, ella la nota quiero subir, te sigo dando hasta morir, si quieres ir nos vamos pa' casa, quieres fumar yo tengo melaza, llega tenta con te fuiste descalza, quieres volver, tírame el WhatsApp, voy perreando, estoy perreando, la nota
Sequilo.
sube elevando, pao, estoy perreando, sigo perreando, la irregular sigo dando. Oye papi, escúchame esto. Todo el mundo está en su viaje y yo en la disco pintao. Y la madre que no diga que yo aquí le he montao. Si a la mis le da con sacudir el montón, aprovecho, racata, aprovecho, raca. Si a la mis le da con sacudir el montón, aprovecho, raca, 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 aprovecho, raca, 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 raca. La rola ya me empezó.
Okay.
La nena
It's
baila
good.
que se botó. Ese culo se merece todo, todo, todo. Ese culo se merece todo, se merece todo, se merece todo.
Yo pensaba que se ponía lenta. Ay, entonces, bueno. Ven en alma que está bellaco. Mi bicho anda fugado y yo quiero que tú me lo escondas. Agárralo como bonga. Se mete una pepa que la pone cachonda. Chinga en los Audi, no en los Honda. Ey, si te lo meto no me llames. Que esto no es pa' que me ames. Ey,
Cama casa, que yo te la moto. Ah.
Definitivamente y sin duda, volviendo a marcar otro nivel.
Baby, ya yo me enteré, se nota cuando me ve, ahí donde no
La van a matar.
que yo te llevaré, y dime qué quieres beber, es que tú eres mi bebé, y de nosotros quién va a hablar, si no nos dejamos ver. Yo sé dolce, sé vulgar, y cuando te lo quito, te lo pari, las copas de vino, las libras de mari, estás bien suelta, y de safari, tú me ves el culo fenomenal, pa' yo devorarte como animal, si no te has venido yo te voy a esperar. En mi camino voy a celebrar, baby, a ti no me pongo, y siempre te lo pongo, y si tú me tiras, vamos a negarlo,
Se la mataron.
si por mí te lo pongo, de septiembre hasta agosto, ni sin cojones lo que digan tu amiga, y ella se entera, se nota cuando me ve, ahí donde no es llegado, sabes que yo te llevaré, dime qué quieres beber, que tú eres mi bebé, y de nosotros quién va a hablar, si no nos dejamos ver. Ay, no me entera, se nota cuando me ve, ahí donde no es llegado, sabes que yo te llevaré, dime qué quieres beber, que tú eres mi bebé, y de nosotros quién va a hablar, si no nos dejamos ver. Mami me tiene buqueado,
Puta, me tuneó.
si fuera la Uru me tuviese parqueado, dando vueltas por el condado, contigo siempre arrebatado. Tú no eres mi señora, pero somos 5,000, gasto en Sephora, Diputón ya no compré en Pandora, como piscina los hombres perfora. Hace tiempo le rompieron el cora,
Ese arquero de...
estudiosa, puesta para ser doctora, pero le gustan los títeres huirleando motora. Yo estoy pa' ti las 24 horas, baby, a ti no me pongo, yo siempre te lo pongo, y si tú me tiras, vamos a darle hondo, si por mí te lo pongo, de septiembre hasta agosto, mis 5 cojones lo que digan tu amiga, y ella se entera, se nota cuando me ve, ahí donde no has llegado, sabes
Tengo que traer mi buffer acá, sí o sí.
Aunque no pretendo quedarme, me da un poco de ansiedad. Y es que en la vida todo se puede, esté bien o esté mal. Pero no podré vivir con la culpa de que al menos una vez más te volví a probar. Tu boca no pierde sabor a caramelo. Nos dejamos llevar. Tú eres mi bandolera, yo soy tu bandolero. Te volví a probar. Tu boca no pierde sabor a caramelo. Nos dejamos llevar. Tú eres mi bandolera, yo soy tu bandolero. Esa boquita tan dulce, sabor a caramelo. Ella es un ángel, pero si la que está caliente, fuego siempre en alta, no necesita vuelo. A nadie le cuenta como es que la consuela ella es muy atractiva. Prende de la sativa, siempre provocativa, soltera vive la vida. Que traje baño y que se ve bien explosiva. Todos los domingos por comprar con medida. Dale, ven, ven, mátame. Dice, dale, baby, maltrátame. Si quieres ir de viaje, solo déjame saber. Si te enamoras, yo nada voy a perder. Ya tú eres mía. Dale, dale, ven, ven, mátame. Dice, dale, baby, maltrátame. Si quieres ir de viaje, solo déjame saber. Si te enamoras, yo nada voy a perder. Te volví a probar. Tu boca no pierde sabor a caramelo. Nos dejamos llevar. Tú eres mi bandolera, yo soy tu bandolero. Te volví a probar. Tu boca no pierde sabor a caramelo. Nos dejamos llevar. Tú eres mi bandolera, yo soy tu bandolero. Siempre seré tu bandolero. Te juro que de todo tomo el va primero. No tienes que preocuparte por lo que quiero. Siempre yo voy a estar por si ese es tu miedo. Mi amor me complace. Me mata siempre que me lo hace. Hay pares que me tiran pero en flor esta clase. Tú me diste pues se robaron todas las bases. Está tan dura que como ya cada 100 años nacen.
No quiero que más nadie me hable de amor. Ya me cansé de esos trucos, ya me lo sé. Esos dolores los pasé. No quiero que más nadie me hable de amor. Ya me cansé de esos trucos, ya me lo sé. Esos dolores los pasé. Hoy te odio en secreto, ante todo lo confieso. Si pudiera te pidiera que devuelva todos los besos que te di, las palabras y todo el tiempo que perdí. Me arrepiento ni mil veces de haber confiado en ti. Quisiera que te sientas como yo me siento. Quisiera ser como tú sin sentimiento. Quisiera sacarte de mi pensamiento. Quisiera cambiarle al final al cuello. No quiero que más nadie me hable de amor. Ya me cansé. Esos trucos ya me lo sé. Esos dolores los pasé. Testigo del dolor que me causaste y todo lo que hiciste conmigo. Un infeliz en el amor que aún no te supera y que ahora camina solo sin nadie por todas las aceras, preguntándole a Dios si en verdad el amor existe. Porque si yo era tan bueno de esta mierda tú me hiciste. Lo más cabrón es que tú ves todo como un chiste. Siempre voy a amarnecer el día en que naciste. Los chocolates que te di y todas las flores se convierten hoy en día en pesadillas y dolores. Ya yo perdí la fe de que tú mejores. Si después de la lluvia sale el arco iris pero sin colores, yeah. No quiero que más nadie me hable de amor. Ya me cansa, esos trucos ya me lo sé. Esos dolores los pasé, yeah. No quiero que más nadie me hable de amor. Ya me cansa, esos trucos ya me lo sé. Esos dolores los pasé, yeah. Yeah, Top Kings, baby. Ya tú sabes quién soy yo, el hombre que te rompió, entre las poses te dio. Ahora no digas que no te hagas, yeah, baby, no te hagas. Ya tú sabes quién soy yo, el hombre que te rompió, entre las poses te dio. Ahora no digas que no te hagas, yeah, baby, no te hagas. Mejor dime que me extrañas, que estás loca de hacerlo conmigo. Baby, yo sé que tú me quieres y de que te la eché dentro de la piel. Mejor dime que me extrañas, que estás loca de hacerlo conmigo. Baby, yo sé que tú me quieres y de que te la eché dentro de la piel. Hagas lo que hagas, tú no me vas a olvidar. De sola y bellaca tú me vas a pensar. Baby, de él no te trates de enamorar, que ninguno de estos cabrones a mí me va a reemplazar. Yo sé que te extrañas como yo te lo daba, que todo lo que comprara era Gucci o Prada. Yo sé que te extrañas como yo te lo daba, como yo te lo daba, como yo te lo daba. De sola y bellaca tú me vas a pensar. La vida cabrón estaba acostumbrada, ahora estás con ese bobo que no te da nada. Como yo te lo daba, como yo te lo daba. Mejor dime que me extrañas, que estás loca de hacerlo conmigo. Baby, yo sé que tú me quieres y de que Mambo Kings, yeah. Rap Kings, baby. Tú vas a ser mía para siempre, yo te condené. Tú tenés este bicho como Denis, se extraña el de René. Como J-Lo extraña el de Mark. Los polvos en la playa, los Phillies en Central Park, yeah. Los polvos en la playa, en la playa, en la playa. Los polvos en la playa, los Phillies en Central Park, yeah. Los polvos en la playa, los polvos en la playa, los Phillies en Central Park, yeah. Mejor dime que me extraña, que estás loca de hacerlo conmigo. Y yo sé que tú me quieres, y de que te la echa dentro de lo mío. Mejor dime que me extraña, que estás loca de hacerlo conmigo. Y yo sé que tú me quieres, y de que te la echa dentro de lo mío. Mambo Kings, yeah. Rock Kings, baby.
DJ Loquillo, The Ghost Mixer, Vicio del Perreo, The Mixtape.
Llegó, Solia, salió sin la amiga, revela en el alcohol buscando una salida de esa relación de mentira. A mí ya vi cómo me miras, te lo repito por si se te olvida. Envíale un mensaje que diga que no, sola, porque me perderte. Algún día vuelvo a verte, de mi parte le dice que no, sola. Porque me perderte, algún día vuelvo a verte. Está casi soltera, no le presenta a nadie, que le da flojera. Total, al final de la noche ella tiene lo que quiera. La luna yo le indico, tú la copa la historia y se pico. Con su canción y se la dedico. Así que quiere hacerlo conmigo rico. Y que lo quite las empañe. La nenita grande, como pa' que alguien la regañe. Anda que no le dañe. Que la calle tiene lo que acompañe. Han sido muchas decepciones. Mentiras de estos cabrones. Una vez más le fallaron. La di una oportunidad, pero se le acabaron. Llegó, Solia, salió sin la amiga. Revela en el alcohol buscando una salida de esa relación de mentira. A mí la vi como mentira. Te lo repito por si se te olvida. Envíale un mensaje que diga que
de noche me llama, que quiere de nuevo en mi cama. No fue suficiente una vez, ahora de día y de noche reclama. Día y de noche me llama, que quiere de nuevo en mi cama. No fue suficiente una vez, ahora de día y de noche reclama. De día y de noche me llama, que quiere de nuevo en mi cama. No fue suficiente una vez, ahora de día y de noche reclama. Día y de noche me llama, que quiere de nuevo en mi cama. No fue suficiente una vez, ahora de día y de noche reclama.
Y no te voy a negar, y no te voy a negar. Aquel día te vi y tu energía sentí, desde solo te quiero lejos de mí. Sé que no sabes de mí y no te puedo mentir, lo que dicen en la calle sobre mí. Y no te voy a negar, y no te voy a negar. Y no te voy a negar. Baila, sácate, sácate, como ella lo mueve, sin parar, sin parar. Las ganas de comerte ahora son más fuertes. Quiero tenerte y no te voy a negar. Y no te voy a negar. Pero encuéntrale, mate, como prendemos si te quito el estrés, dale otra vez. Y no te voy a negar. Aquel día te vi y tu energía sentí, desde solo te quiero lejos de mí. Sé que no sabes de mí y no te puedo mentir, lo que dicen en la calle sobre mí. Baila, sácate, sácate.
La fusaira era la rubia morocha, cheta rocha y el mundo entero. La fusaira. La fusaira. La fusaira. La fusaira. La fusaira. La fusaira. La fusaira.
Que la azote en cuatro es lo que ella busca. Se disfraza y me ejecuta cuando se convierte en puta. Que le hago un par de Willy se lo juegue por su ruta. Ella sabe con cojones, pero se hace la bruta. Y va para el frente, con su piquete mata la demente. Se monta y me exprime, pues su flow es diferente. Su piquete no caduca, yo le doy lo que le gusta, no ronque de fina. Que tú eres bien, me pone mal cuando la veo, la invito. Bellaqueo, bellaqueo, bellaqueo. Bellaqueo, bellaqueo, bellaqueo. Bellaqueo, bellaqueo. Bellaqueo, bellaqueo, bellaqueo.
Venimos a darle duro al mambo y fijaba lo que está sonando. Cuando nos vemos de vez en cuando, no tú sí cabrón me está gozando. En la frutería compro mango, en la cocina la sartén por el mango. No quiero lambo, no pido tanto, yo solamente quiero mango. Poco no entiendo qué quieres decir. Cuenta ovejo pa' dormir. 1, 2, 3, oh gracias maní, no gracias a ti por existir. Más vale pájaro hermano que pollan el ano. Tú sabes mi hermano, nos fuimos, nos vamos, estamos, no estamos, muchos kilogramos. Me pesa este kilo bacano, lo sudo, lo gano, lo gasto en vano. Muerto la manzana, me como el gusano. Eso no es sano, eso no es sano. Estos hippies japa pa' que muevan el ano.
Ya le gustó cuando el rico ritmo bailó y soltando la santa arrebatadora morena. Ya le gustó cuando el rico ritmo bailó y soltando la santa arrebatadora morena.
La fusaira era la rubia morocha, cheta rocha y el mundo entero.
¿Dónde están las mujeres solteras? ¿Dónde están tal? ¿Dónde están tal? ¿Dónde están las mujeres? ¿Dónde están las mujeres?
Toma el perreo.
Ese booty en la disco rebota. Ese booty en las redes explota.
Yo sigo tranquilo, gozando de la buena. Yo sigo tranquilo, gozando de la buena. Hoy me la pego en la pera.
Hoy me la doy en la pera.
Hoy me la pego en la pera.
Hoy me la doy en la pera.
Mueve ese booty,
Chúpate esta.
Superman. Superman, esquivando el oro. En el party con flow, no que mete. Superman.
Escucha con atención lo que te traigo yo. Esta es la fusión de cumbia y reggaetón.
Boricua, cubano, boricua, cubano, boricua, cubano, boricua.
Deditos en el cuello pa' calmar la sed. Mi mano en tu cadera pa' empezar como ves. No le vamos a bajar más nunca, mamá. Baila hasta abajo, como ella lo mueve. Hasta abajo, papi. Baila hasta abajo, como ella lo mueve. Hasta abajo, papi.
Superman, esquivando el oro. En el party con flow, no que mete. Super, mete. En el party con flow, no que mete. Superman sin capa. Superman sin capa, Superman sin capa. Superman sin capa, Superman. Lealtad es lo primero. Yeah. Superman sin capa, Superman sin capa, Superman. Superman sin capa, Superman.
Dime que hasta abajo le gusta ese booty rebota. Estamos rompiendo en el party. Estamos rompiendo en el party. Estamos rompiendo en el party. Astronauta. 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 Estamos rompiendo en el party. Estamos rompiendo en el party. Estamos rompiendo en el party. Astronauta.
Lealtad es lo primero. Yeah. Lealtad es lo primero. Yeah. En el party.
Ahora te toca aprenderle a mí.
Me ven y me preguntan por qué he visto caro. Tú no ves que yo soy caro. No leo de nota, de ni por caro. Que con nadie me comparo. Yo le llevo normal, me miran raro. Pero a nada yo le paro. Yo sé cuánto valgo, yo sé que soy caro. Yo también soy caro. Yo sé cuánto valgo, yo sé que soy caro. Yo sé cuánto valgo, yo sé que soy caro. Yo sé cuánto valgo.
Tú lo que eres una coqueta, tienes tu novio y no lo respetas. Guarda mi número y mentira secreta. Guarda mi foto escondida en la cabeza y cuando llega es receta que te den. Que te den, mi coqueta. Que te den, mi coqueta. Que te den, mi coqueta. Que te den.
Checate lo que hice.
Pim, pum, mama mucha. Pim, pum, mama mucha.
¿Te gusta fumar y beber?
Hoy sí, mami.
no es problema. Tengo tantas gatas en la lista espera. Ten, 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 ten. Comienza a montonar y se me calienta el pico. Vamos encapsulado al bar y a ciento y pico. También va pa' picar perro que yo lo pico. Y pa' las mujeres bien chorras soy bien rapidito. Le hago que mueva cintura, agarrada de la cadera. Pa' meterle con locura, yo traje la verdadera. Si quieres hacer travesura, gata ponte bellaquera. Sube la temperatura, vamos a seguir allá afuera. Siempre andamos activos pa' los giles, pa' la gata, pa' miles que me gasto con la banda más berraca. Dentro el party bacaneo, vacileo, pariseo, le perreo. Con los ojos colorados mientras al otro le mando fuego. Y me recebo, me revuelo si me pego pa' lo oscuro. Le meto sin disimulo pa' otra gira que me sumo. Tumbando dentro del humo, me hace el humo que me vuelta en mi mente. Aunque no te pueda ver, tu perfume en la almohada me enciendes. Muy difícil olvidar, qué rico fue comerte. Quiero que vuelva a pasar. Ahora te estoy llamando, quiero tenerte en mi cuarto. Vamos a hacerlo despacio, despacio, despacio. Ahora te estoy llamando, quiero tenerte en mi cuarto. Y vamos a hacerlo despacio, despacio, despacio. Baby, lo siento, creo que dejé los preservativos debajo del asiento. Sé que antes de llegar a tu casa, y si algo sospecha, ya tú sabes el cuento. Palma y el suspiro al puesto. Si no te la creo, mueres del intento. Si quisiera como yo, fuese todo perfecto. Porque tu novio se acuerda de todo. Aniversario con la hora y todo. El que paga la llama, la cama puro drama. Tú me quedas llamando y tú me llamas pa' que yo le dé. Me llamas pa' que yo le meta. Que la cama soy la neta. Pero no sirvo como nada, no sirvo como nada. Pa' que yo le dé. Me llamas pa' que yo le meta. Que la cama soy la neta. Pero no sirvo como nada, no sirvo como nada.
Why you always in the mood? Fuck around like a brand new. I ain't tryna tell you what to do, but try to make it cool. Baby, I ain't playing by your rules. Everything look better with a view. Why you always in the mood? Fuck around like a brand new. I ain't tryna tell you what to do, but try to play it cool. Baby, I ain't playing by your rules. Everything look better with a view.
Ya suenan los discos y ya me pinta salir. El ambiente retumbando, pintado calle. Si tu juez me anda buscando, voy corriendo hasta ahí. No sé por qué estoy cantando, no me importa nadie. Y ahora quiere bailoteo, se baila toda noche de boteo. Santa Diabla, se lo vive el perreo. Yo sé que quieres ver, manzana, vamos a ver toda la gente. Y ahora quiere bailoteo, se baila toda noche de beboteo. Santa Diabla, se lo vive el perreo. Yo sé que quieres ver, y nos vamos a ver toda la gente ahora explota.
En la noche sé que tú me mientes, ya no te hago, dímelo de frente. En el fondo espero te arrepientas, para que sientas lo que se siente. Aunque sé que es demasiado tarde, y aunque tú y yo seamos diferentes, duele igual cuando te digo ay.
Porque por más que ande high, todo por la night, a ti se acerca y mira bien de cerca mis eyes, perdonando lies, sintiéndome die, aunque esta mierda me haga tocar el sky.
Ayer la vi peleando solita.
What's up, guys? Dog Polk here, and today we're going to be breaking down this hand between Garrett and Robbie on the Hustler stream. This is simply the most insane hand I've ever seen. I have to think about that. I've seen a lot of pretty insane hands along the way, but it's definitely in the conversation for the most out-of-control hand of all time. We're going to break down what went down and talk about what might have happened, but before we do, I want to talk about the people involved in this hand to add a little context for you so you can understand the players a little bit better. Alright, so this guy's name is Garrett. Apparently, he's pretty good at the pokers. The other player in the hand is Robbie Jade Lude. Now, I've done a little digging on her backstory and went through some of her stuff, including her Hendon mob. To take a look at the games that she's played over the last 10 years or so, it's primarily been a lot of small tournaments, a lot of very, very small tournaments. $100 tournaments, $250 tournaments, $400 tournaments, a couple $1,000s here or there as we move into 2021. And then only this year, all of a sudden, she's playing a lot higher stakes. I'm seeing a 3K event, a 5K event, the 10K main event she played as well. She won a 2K, and then now she's playing on the Hustler live stream. The Hustler Weekend Big Game stream is one of the largest cash game streams in the world. So we're looking at someone that has gone from playing in $400 tournaments in March of this year to playing in the one of the actual highest stakes possible streams for hundreds of thousands of dollars. I mean, a lot of players on that stream will buy in for up to $500, $600, $700, $800,000 to start the stream off, and she's in there as well. This is quite a meteoric rise, and I'm not entirely sure this was disclosed on the Hustler show or not. There's a lot of information, and I'm trying to make this video quickly while going through all of the relevant information. But she's actually dating the player named Rip on the show. I have an inside source that has told me they've seen them essentially talking together and in a romantic sense, and also that he is backing her in a lot of these games. That doesn't mean I know she's being backed by him in this game specifically. However, I can say that I know that she's been backed by him or given money by him to play in much smaller stakes games. So I'd have to imagine there's something going on in this game as well. This player, whose name is Jacob, is apparently Jake Paul's manager or Jake Paul's boxing manager. This is something that he's told to multiple different people. So if Jake Paul's boxing manager is involved here, I think this must be a legitimate game. Alright, I'm kidding, but we already have a little bit of a weird setup where we have two people dating in the same game and someone that's being put into much higher stakes games than they normally play. Before we talk about the hand and the session itself, I want to talk about a couple of streams that Robbie had played on prior at Hustler. So, according to the site trackingpoker.com, she's played 2 sessions here before, one where she won $1,700 and one where she won just about $100,000. The first session she played, she broke about even. She won very small. Her play seemed to be fairly reasonable. I looked at some of the big hands that she played, and frankly, they looked normal-ish. I didn't see anything that was too crazy. The second session had some kind of weird ones. So this one, she played it by herself without Rip, but some of the big pots were a little bit weird. But before we jump into these hands, I want to just make one thing very clear. We don't know if what happened was above board or not, but what we should do is give our best to try and do an honest assessment and not jump to conclusions. So we're going to look at a lot of the big hands that happened and talk about what we think about them and if they make sense for someone that would be cheating or not. First big hand that happens on the stream is she 4-bets King Jack offsuit against Garrett's Queens. Probably not a play you'd want to make if you knew their cards. However, on the river, she does make a very nice bluff where she bets 12,000 into roughly 12,000 and gets Garrett to fold because there's an ace out there on the board. This seems totally reasonable. She plays another big pot versus JR where she doubles up with top pair versus another top pair. Again, seemed like a totally reasonable hand. And then she gets a little bit deeper, and so some bigger pots start developing. She plays another big hand, this time versus Charles, where she calls a pre-flop open in the biggest blind with Jack 8. Flops top pair, decides to bet the turn with second pair and a middling kicker / straight draw. Charles decides to go ahead and raise with his ace king, just as gutter to the nuts. She does decide to make the call, and she rivers 2 pair with a 1 to the straight out there and decides to call the river as well. This also seems totally fine, but one thing I'm starting to notice as a pattern in the way that Robbie plays is that she seems to play very, very slow in a way that's kind of unnatural. Like when players tend to tank, they tend to just sort of posture in a similar fashion and move. They don't tend to make a lot of different faces and move around and things. It seems a little bit theatrical to me, the way that she's tanking. And it doesn't seem like she's actually thinking about things. It seems like she's almost waiting. This is something that is reminiscent of some of the Mike Postle hands that we saw before, where he would be waiting in order to know the information so that he could cheat other players at the table, allegedly. And not to say she is doing that here, but I am seeing a trend of her tanking before she does stuff in a way that feels a little bit unnatural to me. Let me know in the comments below if you agree with that. Another hand from this stream that was a little weird. She decided to raise the river with a full house against 3 of a kind. Obviously, that's a good decision to make. That's not weird at all. But when called, she announced that she had 2 pair, which is kind of strange to me.
2 pair. Oh, full house.
That was not an angle. She just misread her hands. I think.
Typically speaking, poker players don't misunderstand when they have 2 pair versus a full house. So that strikes me as a little bit odd. The last hand that I thought was pretty weird from this session was a hand that she played against Bill Klein. In this hand, she 3-bet with ace-queen against ace-8 suited, and then she checked a pretty dry flop. That's not, too crazy, but it was a very nice play against Bill's hand, which was essentially ace-8 of clubs for just a backdoor draw. And then there was a lot of posturing around as Bill bet some small sizes and she check called twice. Now, you could argue she was just doing that to try and get him to bluff, which again is fine. I would say overall in the stream, kind of weird, right? And the fact that she won $100,000 here playing in this sort of weird style is, maybe a little bit notable, but nothing too crazy here, nothing that can't be explained. I wouldn't say that there's anything here that I would find all too peculiar or maybe damning. There were a couple other hands on the stream before the main event here, but let's just go ahead and talk about the hand itself. Okay, so this hand begins with the action folding around to Garrett and opening up the 8-7 of clubs. I'm pretty sure this hand is straddled up to $800, so for Robbie, it's 2.2k more to go, and she looks down at the Jack-4 offsuit. Now, Jack-4 offsuit is not a hand that you're going to want to defend versus almost a 4x here. That said, people could defend it. It's not crazy to defend it, but she does go ahead and make the call. The flop comes 10-10-9 with 2 clubs, and Garrett decides to bet 2.5k into 6.7, so roughly 35-40% pot bet. Now in Robbie's shoes with Jack-4, Jack of clubs, this hand can really go in a lot of directions. I think just letting it go is fine. I think floating here can also be fine. Raising here can also be fine. It's a classic poker hands situation, but she does go ahead and make the call, and let's take a look at the turn. The turn comes to 3 of hearts. Now there are 2 flush draws out there, and Garrett decides to barrel once again. This time he goes for a big size, electing to bet most of the pot with a 10k bet here with his open and straight flush draw. At this point in Robbie's shoes, there's just simply no way around it. It's hard to imagine almost anyone continuing here at all. You could get barreled. You have no equity versus any of the value bets. You're actually behind a bunch of draws. So hands like King Jack, Queen Jack, King Queen, those are all crushing you. And then if your opponent does have a hand like, for example, 8-7 suited here, you're looking at almost a pure flip. I'm not sure what the equity would be. This factors in dead cards. I know it says 53-47, but the equity without knowing dead cards, I don't think would be like that. Regardless, she does decide to go ahead and min raise, and this is a truly wild play. We're not into it has to be cheating territory here, but this is a very, very, very aggressive min raise. Maybe you don't want to get pushed around. Maybe you're trying to fight back. They've played a bunch of big hands together. Even still, I could see this being a reasonable play. I'll also note for the strategy nerds, this is probably not a good hand to do this with because you actually want your opponent to have cards like the Jack of clubs or the 4 of clubs. When you have these cards, it's less likely that they're bluffing. But I don't want to get us bogged down in too much strategy. In fact, if you want to learn some strategy, head on over to Upswing Poker on October 17th. We're launching Nick Petrangelo's live poker course. That's right, Smash Live Cash coming to you on October 17th over on Upswing Poker. Anyway, now that I've got my shameless plugging out of the way, back to the hand. What I can say when I see something like this, I actually vividly remember when I played against the guy that was cheating me, him doing lots of min-raising me in weird spots, and he would even do it with hands like we actually played a big pot where I had a straight flush draw, and I got called by like Jack Deuce offsuit, and it's showing down and me thinking to myself, I 100% know I'm getting cheated, And I reported the guy, and they confirmed it, and I got my money back because PokerStars said this guy was cheating you. Long story, don't have to get into that. So this is a weird play, but still possible. What happens next is just truly, truly incredible. Okay. So Garrett jams, which, by the way, probably a little bit big to jam here. He's risking another 109K. I think you're probably supposed to either 3-bet small or call, but whatever. Decides to jam. And Robbie ends up making the call with Jack 4. Now, this is crazy because, yes, you beat 8-7 of clubs, and maybe you beat a hand like 8-6 of clubs or 7-6 of clubs, but even other flush draws, like, for example, if Garrett had King Queen of clubs, you are so dead in those situations. So, and then Lord forbid Garrett has a 10, some kind of value bet. This is simply not a thing. This call is not a thing. This is calling off $109,000 with nothing, where you could potentially lose other draws. But what's her logic for why she does it?
I thought you were on ace high. Ace high.
And then so why call with jack high then?
First of all, a little bit of a straight draw. I have blockers on that.
No, on the turn though.
I ran it twice because I didn't think jack high could be good. Do you get what I'm saying?
No,
I had a blocker with a jack. Okay.
You had a blocker.
But here's the thing, though.
Yeah.
If you want it, well,
No, please explain.
give me a second. It's not about what I have. It's about what I don't think you have when you play against me.
Yes. Those are words. There's just a lot of the words, just in all kinds of places. She keeps talking about having the jack of clubs, but then can't really in any way decipher why that changes this at all, which is very strange to me. Why is she even bringing it up if she doesn't realize its implications? And she throws out a lot of poker terms, but I don't think she really knows how they're used or what they mean. Talking about flush draws or backdoor flush draws or backdoor straight draws or how that card is relevant, or she can't even really seem to put Garrett on a range of hands. It's really unclear to me what she means at almost any point here. But one thing is definitely for sure, her story seems to change a lot.
And then when the turn came, it was a 3. And you will hear me say on stream, are 3s any good? 3's no good? And the reason I said that is because I thought I was holding a jack of clubs and a 3 of whatever.
The misread her hand thing is definitely a lie because she checks her cards here before she makes the call. That's right. This is an image of her checking her cards before she calls. So she did not misread her hand. Also, in the conversation right following the hand, she comments in a way where she knows she doesn't have a 3. She says, I have a pure bluff catcher, when someone asks if she has a 3. So she did not misread her hand here. I don't know why she's making up stories. There's a lot of plausible reasons why she's doing it. Regardless, she knew her hand. Anyway, following this, Robbie and Garrett decide to talk off stream where they make the decision that she would give all of Garrett's money back to Garrett. In a hand where Garrett could have easily just hit a pair or a flush or a straight. I mean, this call, it wasn't like she had him killed. He had tons of outs. It was basically a flip. In fact, according to the dead cards, he was actually ahead in chance to win. Guys, I gotta say, I've recorded and re-recorded this last segment a bunch of times, and I've talked with a lot of people, and I feel torn because on one hand, when I see a hand like this, it's just so insane that we have to acknowledge the chance that there's something going on. However, this girl also seems very, very dumb and clearly can't describe a poker hand and a strategy and what's happening. So, does that make it more likely she would do something like this? Probably. It's still an insane hand. The fact she can't even explain the strategy part of it, it doesn't help. The fact she paid it back feels extremely damning. But maybe she just felt like she was pressured and she doesn't really understand what's going on, and my heart really feels like something is up, but I'm trying to be objective about this, and it's only been a few sessions. even though she is up in all of those sessions and she's won a lot of money here, and this hand is crazy, it's not enough for us to have a real solid idea that she is. So my main takeaway here would be this. When you see stuff like this, be wary, be skeptical, and do your best to always be questioning what's going on in situations, because that's what you should be doing as a poker player. You should be making sure you're not in bad spots. However, I do not think this is enough at this point to say that she's cheating. It's certainly possible. More information will likely come out. I know it would be great if I could just go all in on one or the other guys, but frankly, I think this is a tough spot. Let me know what you think in the comments below. One last thing before we go, just to talk about Garrett for a second. I know he's taking a lot of heat for the way he's handled himself tonight, but I just want to say one thing. When you get cheated, or you think you got cheated, or something you think is messed up happens, it's very hard to think clearly. And so, quite clearly in this situation, it's going to be difficult for Garrett to think truly objectively when this hand goes down. He's either been cheated, or he's on one of the most all-time sick, bad beat hero calls I've ever seen in my life. It's going to be hard to think clearly. I think he did the right thing by leaving the stream. I don't know if it was the right thing to take the money or not. I really don't know. But what I can say is I'm sure Garrett will do the right thing in the long run. He's always seemed like a stand-up good guy. I think people should just realize that when you have something like this happen to you, it's going to be difficult to think super clearly. And I think he did the right thing by removing himself from the situation. I know it's a bit weird to break up the video like this, but I was recording that video until late last night into the wee hours of the morning. And now that I've woken up, had a chance to think about things, I want to clear up a couple of points and make a couple of new ones. For starters, since this incident, both players have made public statements, with Garrett posting a 6-page document on Twitter. You can read it if you want to and go through exactly what he was thinking. And also Robbie posting her thoughts as well. Garrett's tweets essentially explained why he believed that he was cheated, that Hustler Production was in no way involved in the cheating, and that she decided to give the money back to him when Ryan Feldman made it clear this was going to be a very big deal. Garrett also said if there was any chance that he was not cheated, he would not accept the money, meaning Garrett feels 100% that this was not on the up and up and he was cheated in the hand. Robbie's tweet about the subject told a different tale, that essentially he cornered her and threatened her, essentially implying to give the money back to him. Full details still to come. All right, let's go big picture and take a step back. First questions first. Do we think Robbie was cheating in this game or not? I have friends on both sides that have said fairly strongly one way or the other. However, when I look at this hand, it is so ridiculous that I simply have to think that the most likely outcome is this is cheating. Look at this hand again, guys. Look at this hand again. Bet 10K, raise 20K, jam 130K, call. I'm sorry. I know we all want to believe that someone just LOL stumbled into this. But look at the absurdity of this hand. This is the most absurd hand I've seen ever. And on top of it, it reminds me, I'm having flashbacks to when I got cheated. I got min raised a lot in places because when someone knows they're ahead or behind, they can, or when someone knows they're ahead, they can min raise to put you in very tough spots where you have to continue with the worst hand, and then also to call the jam. It just simply is not a hand that happens. I want to address all of the comments. Well, why would she wait for this spot? Why would she? For starters, we have to look at the action more than the reasoning. And the logic is simple. How often do we see someone get caught cheating and we say, oh, wow, cheaters are idiots. I can't believe they did that. Right? We see that all the time. Postle was incredibly blatant. Think about people that commit crimes in real life. After a full day of mulling over this incredibly baffling hand that happened on the Hustler stream, I've decided that I think that it is overwhelmingly likely that she is cheating, although it's obviously not known for sure. I think it's something like 90% that she is cheating, and today in this video, I'm going to break down the leading theory as to exactly what's happening.
That is super, super strange. You can see his reaction. He seems somewhat disturbed here. It doesn't look like he's seen a ghost, almost.
I don't feel like I should have won that hand. I should not have won that hand. And if everyone wants to flip out about it, good for fucking you. I don't give a shit.
She's actually dating the player named Rip on the show. I have an inside source that has told me they've seen them, and also that he is backing her in a lot of these games.
Allegedly thinking this lady's cheating, she gives him the money back she won. This guy, the cowboy guy, is freaking out. Something is really weird here, guys. I've never seen anything like this. Something is not what it seems.
Before we do, though, a couple quick notes. First off, much better. Second off, I've seen the overwhelming number of threads online about what happened, and typically they all think that she's innocent and that Garrett's being a sore loser. But I do want to make one quick point. Most people are idiots. Sorry about that, guys, but at least no one thinks I'm talking about them. Now, some degree of pros have also weighed in thinking she's innocent, and there's certainly a discussion to be had here. It's far from concrete fact one way or the other, and we do have people on both sides that really think one way or the other. However, this issue has drawn in a lot of people that frankly aren't really a part of poker at all, and they're just saying all kinds of wild shit and upvoting each other and saying, yeah, that's right. The reality is that the average person weighing in with their opinion on this story has almost no knowledge of poker other than basic poker stuff. The actual experts are being sort of drowned out with just the overwhelming masses of people that think poker hand, girl won, oh, guy is being a sore loser, rather than thinking about this critically with actual knowledge of the way poker works. That's not to say she's guilty. There's definitely still a small room for error here. However, we have to look at the evidence that we have and use critical thinking about what happened here. So today I am going to put up what I believe to be the leading theory as to exactly what happened and why I personally think that she might be cheating here. Put enough caveats in there because, you know, legal stuff. A lot of you guys have very strong feelings about this, so I'd like you to just put those to the side and join me as we talk about a potential theory. Then afterwards, we're going to give the case for and the case against, and you guys, of course, as always, can weigh in the comments with what you think happened as well. The theory is this. While she's playing, someone has access to the cards. Either someone in the back studio has access to them and is forwarding them to someone, or someone has figured out a way to hack into the RFID system at the table and is transmitting to some other location. However we want to dice this up, somebody has access to the cards. Then, when Robbie gets into a hand, she has to take a little bit of time and think things over when it's her decision, and that's why she plays slow. During that time, somebody transmits to her a signal that she either is good or not good. It could be in a variety of ways. There is certainly a vibration theory that we're going to take a look at as well. There could be signaling. There could be any kind of thing that lets her know that her hand is good or not good. And then she can proceed accordingly. This would allow her to play fairly accurately in big pot situations. She would be able to know if her hand is good or not good, and then kind of craft her plan based on that information. This would be a very different kind of live stream cheating if it is the case when compared to something like the Mike Postle cheating. With the Mike Postle story, he knew what his opponents had specifically. So not only he knew when he was good, he also knew when to apply the pressure, and there are a bunch of hands where he runs crazy bluffs against people that have really shitty hands. In fact, there's one hand where the guy ended up calling down anyway, just thinking the Postle was full of it. Why is this the leading theory? Well, let's talk about all of the ways where she's cheating first. In those examples, what she would be doing. So for starters, we have things like marking cards. It doesn't really make sense to be marking cards in this instance. You could have certain kinds of lenses that can see marked cards. The reason that doesn't make sense is you're not typically going to be able to mark cards so well you know the exact type of card. So a hero call of this magnitude wouldn't really be possible. Typically when people mark cards, they just know what the aces are, or maybe what like the kings or queens or tens are, so they know in situations what's possible. But typically speaking, that's not going to allow for super sick, crazy hero calls where you know someone has 8 high when you have jack high. So I'd rule that one out. I would also say that the kind of cheating where she's looking at a device and knows someone's hand is also very unlikely. I think the exact accuracy of the types of decisions that she's making aren't nearly as flawless as, for example, how Postle played in a lot of his big pots. And then additionally, looking at her, don't exactly know where the screen would go. There's also a theory that maybe someone could see Garrett's cards when he looks at them. I strongly doubt that. I know that he is in the 9 seat, and that typically has maybe the most chance of something going on because the dealer's in between and you don't exactly know what sight lines are like. However, Garrett is a professional player. He's played for many years. There's no way he has a leak in his game as simple as the 1 or 2 seat can see his cards. Those might be things she's not doing, but let's talk about things that she is doing as we make the case that Robbie is cheating. Note, these are opinions. Please don't sue me. I know it might seem like I'm being extra nitty about my language here, but Robbie's husband tweeted out that she called Robbie like a book. She's done it to me plenty of times at home. Oh, and as far as the legal consequences, all I can say is to buckle up. So, oh shit, this chair doesn't have a fucking seatbelt. Anyway, let's start off big picture. What are things that would happen if someone was cheating in a poker game? Well, for starters, they would win money. And every session Robbie has played here, she in fact has won money, although one was a very small win. She has played 3 sessions, and she's won in all 3, with wins totaling something around $240,000 or so. This figure also includes having paid back $135,000 that she won in a hand versus Garrett, so she has been absolutely killing these games, but it is a very small sample. Okay, so she's winning. How has she played in the big pots? And the answer is she has played extremely well, and we're going to look at a few different hands that were either weird or had weird things going on, or she made incredibly sharp plays to look at some specifics here besides just the Jack 4 hand itself. Here Robbie gets the river with a missed flush draw against a boat that Garrett had. He bets the river and she starts to talk a bit, and the angle changes to a side angle where we can see her quite clearly. In this clip, she talks a bit, and then notice what happens to her chair and abdomen for something like 5 seconds. A very clear vibrating starts in her body and chair. Extremely clear. She is shaking. The chair is shaking. The moment the vibrating stops, she says, "You can have this one."
I don't know what she's really thinking about here.
You can have this one.
What could be causing something like that? Maybe a vent, or maybe she's tapping her foot and we're not seeing her leg move. Certainly possible that this is just a one-off, and I didn't see any other great angles of vibrations happening. However, certainly something kind of weird that we should at least note. Also, isn't this kind of a weird tank? We're in a huge pot. She called a turn bet. She's facing an over bet. She has a bricked flush draw for Jack high on a board where she barely can even beat any of the bluffs. And she tanks for what, 30, 40, 45 seconds here and uses a time chip? She uses a time chip to tank. What is she waiting for? This does not make much sense to me. Typically speaking, when players have a hand this bad, they just fold. They might posture a little bit to make it not seem like they had really nothing, but she is actually spending something of value, a time chip. You have to act quickly on these shows. Spending a time chip to wait to make a decision. Why would you do that with a hand this bad? That's also a bit of a red flag to me as to what's going on here. There was another pretty strange hand that she played against Eric Pearson where she called a 3-bet with ace-king, and then post-flop correctly floated the flop with ace-king high, and then decided to put in a weird just over min turn raise when Eric bet the turn, and she had a better ace high. The reason this hand is at least a little bit weird is when you have ace-king in this situation, typically speaking, your hand more prefers to call because your opponent is either bluffing or they have a very strong overpair. So when you have ace-king, you're actually not in that bad a shape. I will say that because she has a club and a diamond, it maybe makes a little more sense to raise because you block more of the continue range when you do decide to raise. However, you also do block more of the bluffs. I'm not sure what the solver nerds would tell us in terms of if this was good or not. But the reason that it's weird to me is this is a very non-intuitive size to use. She basically raises 40-ish% of her entire stack here with a min raise. What do you do in this spot versus a jam? It's very unclear. And that is a trend that we've seen in now 2 of the big hands she played. Of course, we're talking about the Jack 4 hand as well. The raise small when you're good, that would be not something most players would do. And then if your opponent re-raises, what do you do from there? So this hand looks very similar to me in the fashion that it was played to the Jack 4 hand. and it is not something that you see from players very often at all. This one is not crazy enough to where I would say that I think that it's cheating or something like that in its own right. But it also shows us another big pot where she's making a very sharp decision facing a turn bet. Next hand I want to look at, I want to key on a couple of smaller points in the Jack 4 hand that didn't really get discussed much before. For starters, when she min raises Garrett on the turn, she also says to him something like, I'm scratching my face because that's the shit I got, which, by the way, makes no sense. But frankly, a lot of what she says makes no sense. So I don't think that's too out of the realm of normalcy.
Oh, wait, hold on. Let me scratch my face. That's the shit I got.
There's a classic tell in poker for people that are maybe new to the game, or maybe you've not heard of this before. But typically speaking, when we play a game of information, humans are more inclined to do the opposite thing than what they really have. So, for example, it's the classic weak mean story has almost no knowledge of poker other than basic poker stuff. The actual experts are being sort of drowned out with just the overwhelming masses of people that think poker hand, girl one, oh, guy is being a sore loser, rather than thinking about this critically with actual knowledge of the way poker works. That's not to say she's guilty. There's definitely still a small room for error here. However, we have to look at the evidence that we have and use critical thinking about what happened here. So today I am going to put up what I believe to be the leading theory as to exactly what happened and why I personally think that she might be cheating here. Put enough caveats in there because, legal stuff. A lot of you guys have very strong feelings about this, so I'd like you to just put those to the side and join me as we talk about a potential theory. Then afterwards, we're going to give the case for and the case against, and you guys, of course, as always, can weigh in the comments with what you think happened as well. The theory is this. While she's playing, someone has access to the cards. Either someone in the back studio has access to them and is forwarding them to someone, or someone has figured out a way to hack into the RFID system at the table and is transmitting to some other location. However we want to dice this up, somebody has access to the cards. Then, when Robbie gets into a hand, she has to take a little bit of time and think things over when it's her decision, and that's why she plays slow. During that time, somebody transmits to her a signal that she either is good or not good. It could be in a variety of ways. There is certainly a vibration theory that we're going to take a look at as well. There could be signaling. There could be any kind of thing that lets her know that her hand is good or not good. And then she can proceed accordingly. This would allow her to play fairly accurately in big pot situations. She would be able to know if her hand is good or not good, and then kind of craft her plan based on that information. This would be a very different kind of live stream cheating if it is the case when compared to something like the Mike Postle cheating. With the Mike Postle story, he knew what his opponents had specifically. So not only he knew when he was good, he also knew when to apply the pressure. And there are a bunch of hands where he runs crazy bluffs against people that have really shitty hands. In fact, there's one hand where the guy ended up calling down anyway, just thinking the Postle was full of it. Why is this the leading theory? Well, let's talk about all of the ways where she's cheating first. In those examples, what she would be doing. So for starters, we have things like marking cards. It doesn't really make sense to be marking cards in this instance. You could have certain kinds of lenses that can see marked cards. The reason that doesn't make sense is you're not typically going to be able to mark cards so well, you know, the exact type of card. So a hero call of this magnitude wouldn't really be possible. Typically when people mark cards, they just know what the aces are, or maybe what like the kings or queens or tens are, so they know in situations what's possible. But typically speaking, that's not going to allow for super sick, crazy hero calls where you know someone has 8 high when you have jack high. So I'd rule that one out. I would also say that the kind of cheating where she's looking at a device and knows someone's hand is also very unlikely. I think the exact accuracy of the types of decisions that she's making aren't nearly as flawless as, for example, how Postle played in a lot of his big pots. And then additionally, looking at her, don't exactly know where the screen would go. There's also a theory that maybe someone could see Garrett's cards when he looks at them. I strongly doubt that. I know that he is in the 9 seat, and that typically has maybe the most chance of something going on because the dealer's in between and you don't exactly know what sight lines are like. However, Garrett is a professional player. He's played for many years. There's no way he has a leak in his game as simple as the 1 or 2 seat can see his cards. Those might be things she's not doing. Well, let's talk about things that she is doing as we make the case that Robbie is cheating. Note, these are opinions. Please don't sue me. I know it might seem like I'm being extra nitty about my language here, but Robbie's husband tweeted out that She called Robbie like a book. She's done it to me plenty of times at home. Oh, and as far as the legal consequences, all I can say is to buckle up. So, oh shit, this chair doesn't have a fucking seatbelt. Anyway, let's start off big picture. What are things that would happen if someone was cheating in a poker game? Well, for starters, they would win money. And every session Robbie has played here, she in fact has won money, although one was a very small win. She has played 3 sessions, and she's won in all 3, with wins totaling something around 240,000 or so. This figure also includes having paid back 35,000 that she won in a hand versus Garrett, so she has been absolutely killing these games, but it is a very small sample. Okay, so she's winning. How has she played in the big pots? And the answer is she has played extremely well, and we're going to look at a few different hands that were either weird or had weird things going on, or she made incredibly sharp plays to look at some specifics here, besides just the Jack 4 hand itself. Here, Robbie gets the river with a missed flush draw against a boat that Garrett had. He bets the river, and she starts to talk a bit, and the angle changes to a side angle where we can see her quite clearly. In this clip, she talks a bit, and then notice what happens to her chair and abdomen for something like 5 seconds. A very clear vibrating starts in her body and chair. Extremely clear. She is shaking, the chair is shaking. The moment the vibrating stops, she says, "You can have this one."
I don't know what she's really thinking about here.
You can have this one.
What could be causing something like that? Maybe a vent, or maybe she's tapping her foot and we're not seeing her leg move. Certainly possible that this is just a one-off, and I didn't see any other great angles of vibrations happening. However, certainly something kind of weird that we should at least note. Also, isn't this kind of a weird tank? We're in a huge pot. She called a turn bet. She's facing an over bet. She has a bricked flush draw for Jack High on a board where she barely can even beat any of the bluffs. And she tanks for, what, 30, 40, 45 seconds here and uses a time chip? She uses a time chip to tank. What is she waiting for? This does not make much sense to me. Typically speaking, when players have a hand this bad, they just fold. They might posture a little bit to make it not seem like they had really nothing, but she is actually spending something of value, a time chip. You have to act quickly on these shows. Spending a time chip to wait to make a decision. Why would you do that with a hand this bad? That's also a bit of a red flag to me as to what's going on here. There was another pretty strange hand that she played against Eric Pearson where she called a 3-bet with ace-king, and then post-flop correctly floated the flop with ace-king high, and then decided to put in a weird just over min turn raise when Eric bet the turn, and she had a better ace-high. The reason this hand is at least a little bit weird is when you have ace-king in this situation, typically speaking, your hand more prefers to call because your opponent is either bluffing or they have a very strong overpair. So when you have ace-king, you're actually not in that bad a shape. I will say that because she has a club and a diamond, it maybe makes a little more sense to raise because you block more of the continue range when you do decide to raise. However, you also do block more of the bluffs. I'm not sure what the solver nerds would tell us in terms of if this was good or not. But the reason that it's weird to me is this is a very non-intuitive size to use. She basically raises 40-ish% of her entire stack here with a min raise. What do you do in this spot versus a jam? It's very unclear, and that is a trend that we've seen in now 2 of the big hands she played. Of course, we're talking about the Jack 4 hand as well. The raise small when you're good, that would be not something most players would do, and then if your opponent re-raises, what do you do from there? So this hand looks very similar to me in the fashion that it was played to the Jack 4 hand, and it is not something that you see from players very often at all. This one is not crazy enough to where I would say.
Quieres ser tan bueno si lo sueñas de verdad. Inténtalo, empiézalo, seguro y veloz. Pum, pum, purum, pum. Bueno, basta. En el canal donde últimamente se están haciendo muchos análisis de animes para más 18. Me está gustando la tónica, a usted le está gustando y puede ser que sigamos. Pero en este canal en el que últimamente se está hablando mucho de animes más 18, no siempre me gusta hablar de eso, sino que hay veces que me gusta hablar de obras que no se pensaba que iban a ser populares, sino que vos pensabas cuando veías que se iban a estrenar, decías, ah, sale esta serie, puede ser que le vaya bien. O varias que están en este top que vos decías, ¿esto qué? ¿A quién le importa? ¿Es nuevo? ¿Es viejo? ¿Tiene que importar? ¿Es importante? Y terminan después siendo un furor de masas y rompiendo el internet, como dice el Goebbels en sus títulos. Es por eso que hoy, en este humilde canal, les voy a traer un video hablando sobre los animes que se volvieron populares de la nada. Aún no sé cómo voy a titular este video porque no... El título, animes que se volvieron populares de la nada, es como medio feíto, ¿viste? No llama la atención, no llama al clickbait. Así que posiblemente lo titule Animes que rompieron el internet y nadie esperaba nada de ellos. Ese título, se pone a ladrar un perro, pero ¿qué pasó? Mirá, justito un pibito me está siguiendo en Twitch. Un saludo, Notian 21. Bueno, pero en este video lo que vamos a hacer es un top 5 de animes que la verdad a priori no iban a ser tan populares y la gente no veía la gran cosa en ellos y terminaron enamorando a todo el mundo y dejando una gran huella en la historia
Sí o sí,
de la animación.
tiene que entrar el del slime top puesto.
La primera,
Sí.
saben que eso es
Otro
muy
a mí
importante.
que no esperaba, te apuesto que es el Overlord. Ese anime no me gusta.
Bueno,
Y es eso que soy tanto no de gustarme esa cosa.
Todavía lo tengo apuntado por ahí. Y comencemos. Sí, ahora todos somos fans del Kimi no sé, Kimi no sé, Kimi no sé, watashi, Pero en su momento, esta obra era otro estreno más cualquiera proveniente de la Tierra del Sol Naciente. Pero desde el estreno de su primer capítulo se volvió algo tan popular que las personas de este lado del mundo se acaban de volver locas con el anuncio de su segunda temporada que nos va a volver a enamorar a todos si Dios quiere. Con Bonnie Senpai pasaba algo. Podía ser entendible que la obra pudiera gustarle medianamente al público, ya que contaba con elementos que el fanático más casual del anime puede disfrutar. Ya saben, una protagonista bastante agraciada físicamente y que se viste de conejita, un prota medio sombrío que tiene un aura de misterio a su alrededor y un supuesto lore extraño que le da profundidad a la serie. Todos esos elementos de entrada a los consumidores del anime les suelen gustar, pero de ahí a hacer una serie que sigue sumamente vigente hasta el día de hoy hay un abismo. Aún a día de hoy las personas siguen sin saber cómo se llama realmente este anime y todos lo nombramos como Bonnie Senpai, y así está bien, ya que quedó tan metida en nuestra cabeza y se ganó tanto nuestro corazón que ponernos técnicos con ella sería darle unas formalidades que no tienen sentido. Todo el tema del síndrome de la adolescencia ha ganado una popularidad gracias a la serie que es increíble, y creo que más allá de los elementos iniciales que nos gustaban de la obra, lo que hizo que se volviera tan popular fue lo interesante y compleja que llegaba a ser, dándonos una necesidad constante de saber más y más sobre el lore interno de la serie, y ese fue un gran acierto. La chica conejo arrancó siendo una tapada más y terminó siendo una de las obras más reconocidas a día de hoy en el mundillo. Ustedes saben que yo no soy el fan más grande de la obra protagonizada por la joven Mari, pero es innegable que la serie tuvo un boom en popularidad con el estreno de su anime que nadie lo esperó. Antes que saliera la obra, cuando se anunciaba que se iba a estrenar, la gente la miraba de reojo porque no pensaban que un anime sobre una chica que quiera hacer cosplay vaya a ser divertido. Y si a eso le sumamos el hecho de que solo la mirarían para ver qué tan linda era la protagonista, pensábamos que iba a ser una serie que tuviera un hype inicial y que al segundo día ya nadie la recordaría. Pero nada que ver, desde su estreno Sono Bisquedol fue un fenómeno de masas y hasta el día de hoy sigue dando que hablar en las comunidades del anime. Coincidimos
Y no me
todos que
gusta
gran parte de la
ese
popularidad
anime.
viene por parte de lo bonita que puede parecer.
No me gusta, no, o sea, ni siquiera lo he visto, o sea, no tengo opinión, pero me parece una idea
Pero
ridícula.
nadie le puede quitar que fue una serie que le peleaba mano a mano a Shingeki no Kyojin semana a semana para ver cuál era el anime más visto y que incluso en varios pasajes le ganó. Así que quitarle ese mérito sería querer tapar el sol con la mano. A Sonovisquedor se le pueden criticar muchas cosas, y posiblemente varios de los que ven este video crean que no mereció ser tan popular como la fue. Hasta yo puedo creer que se hypeó un poco de más la obra, pero los resultados están a la vista, y lo que buscaba la serie, que era ser popular, lo logró, y de manera que nadie lo podría imaginar. Igual, les voy a decir siempre esto: el mejor personaje de la obra es Gojo, y eso se le discute al que quieran. Antes de que saliera el anime, vos le preguntabas a los consumidores de la industria si conocían.
Uy, tampoco he visto ese, viejo. No lo he visto. Hay varios que tengo que ver.
Sí, pero después del estreno del primer capítulo, el furor que hubo alrededor de Tokyo Revenger no tuvo igual. Tokyo Revenger incluso a día de hoy sigue siendo un fenómeno de masas, porque aunque cayera en la consideración de las personas y la mayoría coincidamos en que la serie ya no tiene un rumbo fijo, estaba muy presente en la industria. Solo tienen que ir a un evento anime que de cada 4 cosplay que veas, 1 o 2 son de Tokyo Revenger, y no es broma, es una locura. Es cierto que lo de Tokyo Revenger en el corto tiempo pasará, y en un futuro será solamente un recuerdo de una obra que tuvo una buena primavera. Pero, ¿quién le quita lo bailado? ¿Quién le va a quitar que fue uno de los animes más consumidos el año de su estreno, y que su manga se licenció en todas partes del mundo y terminó vendiendo millones de copias en Japón? ¿Quién se va a animar a decir que no fue un anime extremadamente famoso, y eso que sucedió de la nada? Porque, repito, nadie daba 3 pesos por la obra. Era una serie de pandilleros que andaban en moto y viajaban a través del tiempo dándose la mano. A priori no encantaba a nadie, pero con su primer capítulo dejó tan metidas a las personas en su lore que pareció una broma. Y es más, cuando terminó su anime, las personas se volvieron locas para ir al manga a ver cómo continuaba. Y si hubiera terminado en la boda de cierto personaje, aún seguiría teniendo el cariño del público. Salir de la nada y tener al mundo en tus manos es algo que solo Tokyo Revenger puede hacer. Ahora es muy difícil pensar en Kaguya-sama como un anime que no haya sido popular o una serie que no sea conocida por la amplia mayoría de
no me he visto ni uno de estos.
La verdad es que hasta 2019
tengo que ponerme al día.
Se estrena su primera versión del anime, pasaba por debajo del radar de todos. Y si te preguntaban si conocías Kaguya-sama, a vos te nacían ganas de cagarlo a piñas al que te preguntaba, porque pensabas que estaba insultando a tu madre. Es increíble. Yo les voy a decir esto: Kaguya-sama se hizo muy popular por 3 motivos. El primero es su comedia, ya que es de las pocas series japonesas que puede dar risa y que además cuentan con un narrador que es un fenómeno. El segundo, lo novedoso de su argumento, en el cual 2 personajes obligan al otro a que se confiese porque están en una guerra de amor. Y el tercero es por los personajes, ya que tanto Kaguya, el Kaicho, Ishigami y Chika juegan todos para ver cuál es más carismático. Todos esos elementos, como les digo, hicieron que Kaguya-sama a día de hoy sea una de las series más conocidas y queridas a nivel mundial. Me acuerdo que a mí me hicieron verme Kaguya-sama y me la rushé toda en una sola noche. Era increíble, no la conocía de nada y no podía parar de consumir sus capítulos, ya que estaba cada uno más bueno que el anterior. Era hermoso. Ya con la salida de la segunda y tercera temporada encontrábamos una serie mucho más consolidada y que ha brindado varios momentos de calidad y popularidad. Pero ese boom inicial que tuvo con su primera adaptación le dio la vida y mucho más a la franquicia. Aún me acuerdo cuando escuché por primera vez el "Oh Mario me está, oh me está". Tremendo. La sorpresa del año. La verdad es que ninguna persona daba nada por Cyberpunk. Es más, creo que la mayoría esperaba que fuera igual de mala que su juego. Y si somos sinceros, nos voló la cabeza a todos. Cyberpunk lo tiene todo: una buena historia, grandes personajes, momentos épicos, peleas alucinantes, situaciones emotivas y uno de los finales más chocantes de los últimos tiempos. Todo eso le hicieron una de las series más populares de Netflix del último tiempo, y una de las obras más queridas por los fanáticos del anime alrededor del globo. La historia de David nos compró el corazón. Es imposible que una persona no ama al personaje y se devore los 10 capítulos de la serie esperando que la vida le sonría y le devuelva un poco de lo bueno que se merece. Pero no es solo él, ya que Main es otro personaje muy bien trabajado y que en el poco tiempo que tuvo en pantalla le ganó el corazón a los consumidores. Y si tengo que hablar de otros personajes que le ganaron el corazón de los espectadores, debo mencionar a Lucy y Rebecca, 2 personajes que demostraron que incluso a día de hoy se pueden crear personajes femeninos muy interesantes y que tienen bastante que aportar al espectador. La gente está enamorada de Cyberpunk. Creo que revolucionó, ha brindado varios momentos de calidad y popularidad, pero ese boom inicial que tuvo con su primera adaptación le dio la vida y mucho más a la franquicia. Aún me acuerdo cuando escuché por primera vez el "Oh Mario me está, oh me está". Tremendo. La sorpresa del año. La verdad es que ninguna persona daba nada por Cyberpunk. Es más, creo que la mayoría esperaba que fuera igual de mala que su juego. Y si somos sinceros, nos voló la cabeza a todos. Cyberpunk lo tiene todo. Una buena historia, grandes personajes, momentos épicos, peleas alucinantes, situaciones emotivas y uno de los finales más chocantes de los últimos tiempos. Todo eso le hicieron una de las series más populares de Netflix del último tiempo. Y una de las obras más queridas por los fanáticos del anime alrededor del globo. La historia de David nos compró el corazón. Es imposible que una persona no ama al personaje y se devore los 10 capítulos de la serie esperando que la vida le sonría y le devuelva un poco de lo bueno que se merece. Pero no es solo él, ya que Main es otro personaje muy bien trabajado y que en el poco tiempo que tuvo en pantalla le ganó el corazón a los consumidores. Y si tengo que hablar de otros personajes que le ganaron el corazón de los espectadores, debo mencionar a Lucy y Rebecca, dos personajes que demostraron que incluso a día de hoy se pueden crear personajes femeninos muy interesantes y que tienen bastante que aportar al espectador. La gente está enamorada de Cyberpunk, creo que revolucionó desde su estreno y aunque nadie esperara nada de ella, la verdad es que podemos decir que fue una de las pocas series que rescatamos de esta temporada de verano que dejó mucho que desear. Si me apuran, Cyberpunk es uno de los mejores anime del año y si vemos dónde estaba en la consideración de las personas antes de su estreno, entonces nos tenemos que volver todos locos. Las aventuras de David
Muy buena semana, vamos al lío, vamos con el primer clip que dice mi spray transfer más rápido. Vamos a ver. Hasta primero, segundo, tercero y cuarto. Ha sido una auténtica barbaridad. El rango inmortal radiante, ¿eh? Vale, vamos. ¿Se puede hacer esto? En el típico muro que tira la Viper te puedes meter ahí. ¡Oh! No lo sabía. Hostias, esto es top, ¿eh? Esto es muy top, ¿eh? Vale, vamos a ver el siguiente clip. Tenemos a Som. Mata el primero, right click. No se complica, Som, ¿eh? Mata el segundo. Ok. Mata el tercero. ¿Right click lagueado o soy yo? La mata de no-scope, ¿no? Yo después tiro un no-scope y no mato. Perdona. Mamá, ¿cómo va el Som? Vale, vamos a ver el siguiente clip. Un ace con la serie. Lo he tenido que ver dos veces, ha sido precioso. Ha sido precioso. Jugador de TSM. Siguiente clip, tenemos un ace. Vale. La flash es sensacional, se han comido todos. Y encima mata las lechugas. Encima mata las lechugas de Sky. Seguimos. ¿Un 1 versus 5 sin matar a nadie? ¿Hola? ¿Cómo que un 1 versus 5 sin matar a nadie?
Guarde,
¿Qué estoy viendo?
La defusa. No, no está,
¿Qué hacen? ¿Qué hacen? Estoy flipando, estoy flipando. Vamos a seguir con es loco, los compañeros de mi equipo en el Solo Q Challenge. Mamá, qué duro. Por cierto, menudas tortas ha metido aquí el compañero. Que encima se permite pegarse desde 4. Brutal. Arma gratis, por cierto. Vamos a ver. Lo de pistolas, está FK. Empieza a mover. Vamos a ver, Potato PC. Por eso a lo mejor empezó tarde. Estoy flipando. Yo hoy estoy flipando. Vamos a ver a Nats. Vandal Supremacy. Tagata. Joder, para Nats. El oso panda. Que dice que a lo mejor va Liquid, ¿no? Se la pela todo. Se la pela todo. Es que buenazo, chavales. Cuando eres tan bueno. Y último clip. Antes de pasar a la segunda sección, chicos y chicas. Un ace increíble. Este Omen. Oye, día de controladores, muchos controladores haciéndose flipardos. Qué puta locura de vídeo está haciendo este, tío. Qué puta locura. En fin, chicos y chicas, vamos con la segunda sección. Fails y momentos graciosos. Vamos con el primero de los clips. Haciendo bunny hop, la reina se rinde. Vaya mierda. Clips. Haciendo bunny hop, la reina se rinde. Vaya mierda, le está metiendo, pero reina. Pero reina. O sea, no es que se haya rendido. Es que literalmente lo que ha hecho, chicos y chicas, es dejarse acuchillarse. En fin. Vamos con el siguiente que pone dolor. O sea, a lo que se refiere es otra Leon, Vale. No. 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 Ahora que lo pienso, mi vídeo de ayer creo que es mejor. Os lo dejo. Me pueden haber tomado. Ven. Planting.
Planting, what the fuck.
En fin, chicos y chicas, cosas que pasan. Ese es un clip de regalo que os doy. Vamos con el cuarto de los clips. Vamos a ver este chamber que le ha hecho el día, al parecer. Vamos a ver. Para Viper a por él. Vale, vaya primera bala. Segunda. ¿Va a fallar todas las balas? Es que creo que es capaz. Ha fallado todas las balas, efectivamente, y ha sido acuchillado. La última rota del juego en buenas manos. Y por último, chicos y chicas, oye, acabamos con Nats. Holy Whiff. Si le pasa a Nats, ¿cómo no te va a pasar a ti y a mí, chicos y chicas? Es que sois a lo mejor demasiado exigentes, ¿no? Y con esto acabamos el vídeo del día de hoy. Espero de corazón que os haya gustado. Y si ha sido así, reventad el botón de like, no olvidéis suscribiros. Nos vemos mañana con mucho más. Un saludo y hasta la próxima. Chao, chao.
You know, I had decided I was going to quit YouTube about 2 years ago. I just wasn't sure how to go about it, but in my mind, I was so set on it. Then I started looking back on why I started YouTube, or when I started. You know, I was in Sweden, I was living in all alone, I was technically on a good track, you know. I was in university. I had my career path laid in front of me. I knew, even though I wasn't feeling good, I knew I would be fine. But I remember how stuck I felt at that time, just doing something I didn't want to do whatsoever. So I was just doing YouTube, hoping, praying. Because it wasn't even a job back then, really, for gaming channels at least. That maybe it would work out. And just remembering how stuck I felt back then to now, where I just feel so free, I just wanted to really say thank you for that, for making that possible. There's been a lot of changes on the channel lately, so I figured it made sense to do kind of an update video on looking on the past and where the channel is now and where it's going in the future. As you know, which I've kind of shoved in your face, me and Marcin moved to Japan, and I feel like, you know, on the topic of quitting, now would really be the perfect time. You know, my channel kind of peaked. We tried so many different things, done so many different things, and I just, yeah, it'd be the perfect, you know, we moved to Japan, and so they lived happily ever after. It's funny because I even see comments kind of like begging me to quit, like, bro, just quit already. What else do you want? And I get it. It makes sense, right? But the awkward part is, I'm still here. Post credit. Hey guys, I'm not quitting. But yeah, 2 years ago when I decided I was gonna quit, it was because I had gone through so much drama at the time, and you know, it hasn't always been perfect, but I do feel like I've gone through a lot of scrutiny as well, and the negative would just outweigh the good at that point. But it didn't feel right to quit just because other people, especially when so many people are still being so supportive, you know? And yeah, I look back on my 10 years on YouTube, and it's been a wild fucking ride, and I would do it all again in a heartbeat. I'm so grateful for all the memories and experience that I had so far, but the thing is, I don't want to do it again. Because I'm a different person now because of it. I look back on everything that we've done, and I'm super proud of it, and it's amazing, but, you know, I'm ready for new experiences and different things. I think I realized at that time that, you know, keep trying to push the channel to grow more and more and more all the time wasn't doing anything for me personally. I wasn't getting anything out of the money or the recognition or the fame. At least that part had kind of peaked, you know? What am I gonna do with more? I don't know. Felt like I was growing the channel just because it's expected of you to do so. You have to keep pushing your YouTube channel, keep growing, keep seeing those numbers go up, you know? Because that's what's expected of you, but just realize, like, why? Why? I think I realized that if I had 100 less of subscribers or whatever, or thousands less, I would still feel just as accomplished and just as proud of myself. So what's the point of always trying to push it, you know? But I would always just keep trying to grow the channel as best as I can, you know? The views are there, and everyone wants them to go up, and I would stress out over every single upload. I got into really bad habits. I got out of them anyway, but, you know, I just realized I was so addicted to YouTube at that point. And it was all I really cared about. It really took up all my focus and energy for such a long time, really. And that's what made me successful, but I didn't necessarily feel more successful because of it, I guess is my point. I know this sounds kind of like I'm complaining. I'm just reflecting, really. So 2 years ago, I said I was going to retire, and that confused a lot of people because I still uploaded videos. But the thing is, what I meant was I just want to do YouTube the way I did it when I started, which was for fun. Believe it or not, I didn't do it to become this, I don't know, big channel or big character. And so instead I try to just focus on, yeah, what was fun about YouTube, which is really at its core just to share stuff with you guys. And I've been avoiding all the drama, been a good boy, thank you. Try to avoid all the bullshit and just try to enjoy it the best I can. Not focus too much on the results, and YouTube actually started to become fun again for the past 2 years. And that's when I realized, you know, why should I quit? It's my dream after all to do YouTube. I've worked so hard for this. I think other people could see it as, oh, he got fame, he got money, you know, what else does he want? But that's never I don't want to prize of, you know, letting some people down because they prefer a certain type of content, and there's always going to be expectations.
I've played a lot of Pokemon in my days, and by that, I mean I've played the same Pokemon game with various different skins. But I'm here today to showcase one of, if not the most unique ideas for a Pokemon game Nintendo has published for our tiny little hearts. And that game is called Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness. XD. A bit unfortunate, but it came out in 2005, so they get a pass. Why am I talking about it? I think it's an underground game not enough people know about. It does something different, kind of shakes up the formula. It's constantly overshadowed by its predecessor, Pokemon Coliseum. And yeah, okay, I played it as a kid. I'm very biased. Is that what you wanted? If you've not heard of it or played it, you're in for a treat today. The game opens up to a cargo boat, the SS Libra, out at sea, where we find the captain and guy who steers standing at the helm. All is calm and serene when suddenly they get swatted. And it's not no ordinary SWAT today, folks. No, sir. This is a Lugia SWAT. They run out to see what's going on, and the captain looks up and makes this face as if he wants to kiss Lugia passionately on the lips. But Lugia's not here for kisses. He's here for the opposite of kisses, which is crime. He hyper beams the cargo ship and then steals it. You heard me right, just blasts the thing point blank and takes it away. Lugia's ship now. The presumably only 2 people on the entire boat fall into the water and are left to just drown in the ocean, I guess. Well, that was a bit raw. What are we, a minute in and 2 people are dead? Gen 10 could never. Hard cut to me because that's more important. You play as this boy kid named Michael, but actually his name is Jaden now because that's me. The game throws you into the middle of this intense looking fight between a Salamence and Metagross, both level 50. I don't know where I am, what the stakes are, who I am, but this battle seems really important and tough, so I'm gonna give it my all and immediately OHKO it. I did it! Screen goes black. I open my eyes, everything's blurry. Wake up, Jaden, you've been in a coma for 15 years. Turns out I live in a friendly laboratory run by this Professor Crane and his lab guys. I get up and the guy running the battle simulation tells me how good of a battler I've become. Aw, thanks, man. Then he immediately negs me by telling me it's about time I go out and get myself more Pokemon besides my one lame Eevee. Backhanded compliment at a child, but I'll take it, I think. I go into Crane's office where him and my mom are talking, and he says he heard from the battle coach that my battling skills have improved dramatically, and how proud he is of me. To which my own mom tells him to stop giving me compliments and praise because I'm gonna end up spoiled rotten. I don't know what kind of a response that is to a child receiving praise. Either I'm already a cocky little bastard, or I'm being currently emotionally neglected by everyone in this building. Whatever it is, I don't think it's healthy for my mental development. To make this mother look even worse, we realize her only other child, Jovi, is missing and no one is looking for her. The world is only filled with overpowered wild rabbit animals and crazy people. No, I'm sure it's fine you haven't started looking for her. Keep doing what you're doing. I get a lead saying she really likes hanging out with family friend mad scientist Dr. Kaminko, so I head over to his house and I'm about to knock on his creepy door when this tiny little blind man, Chobin, the doctor's assistant, walks up and is like, "Burglar!" and challenges me to a battle, to which I win because he only has a level 5 Sunkern. Jovi comes out and is like, "Oh, hi, big brother, it's Jovi. Did you get lost, big brother? Silly big brother, Jovi will guide you back home." Alright, I see why no one was looking for her now. We return home to the lab and they present me with a snag machine. A machine that allows the user to catch shadow Pokemon, which are Pokemon that have been so abused that they turn evil. Now, they're saying they haven't seen or heard of any shadow Pokemon that exist anymore because they've all been purified years ago. But who knows when they could start popping up again? Better be safe than sorry. Bam! Some guys from a secret organization called Cypher bust into the lab, beat everyone up, steal Professor Crane, show off their shadow Pokemon, and run off to their secret base to never be seen again. Well, I'll be. The lab is in shambles, not knowing what to do, but then decides they're gonna complete their purification chamber in his honor because shadow Pokemon are back and they want to do something about it. They send me off to this seaside town, Gadionport, to retrieve a machine part they need, and Jovi pesters our mom to come with because Jovi doesn't think I can handle going out on my own, and Jovi needs to hold my hand and guide her big brother the whole way. Okay, not only does this little snot talk in the third person for no reason, maybe our mom didn't care enough to to get us any education. Perhaps she was worried the teacher would give us a compliment, heaven forbid. But she's also the most annoying character I've ever witnessed in any media, and I've watched an episode of My Hero Academia with a grape kid in it. We go to Gadionport, and not 2 seconds pass until Jovi pisses off this random guy, Zook, who happens to be the buffest man in the world. He's about to punt her, and I'm about to do nothing about it, when this old man and his color-coded henchmen step in and obliterate his Shadow Zangoose. Old man, I was about to be free of everything that is bad in my life, and you took that away from me. We get the part, head back, and Mom tells me about this spot in Agate Village called the Relic Stone where you can naturally purify Pokemon. Making your own purifying chamber then when there's a rock that already does that. I go to Agate and this very enthusiastic man with a Pikachu shows me the stone and I'm like, cool. To which he's like, by the way, my friend Vander might know where Cypher took Crane. Oh, okay. I go talk to Vander and he points to this random spot in the desert on my map and is like, oh, they're right here. I saw them. What were you doing out there? That's literally just sand. Wow, would you look at that? A headquarters. Huh. I start infiltrating the base, battling all the grunts that fall from the ceiling, snagging any shadow Pokemon I find, until I reach Pink Hatsune Miku, who's trying to get information out of Crane about purifying shadow Pokemon. I battle her and win, which means I get to unkidnap him, and while heading out, I find this data ROM on the ground. Huh. This seems very important and like it has a lot of secret information about Cypher on it. Convenient. Crane returns to the lab and everyone's happy, and then they send me to Pyrite Town to find Net, a guy that should be able to crack the ROM and access all the information on it. So I head there and he's like, yeah, we can crack this, smile. While he's hacking it, I go out and play around in a random cave and run into Mirror B. This guy doesn't do much in this game, honestly, but I just want to make sure you know he exists and listen to his music. I go check on Net again, and Cypher's busted and beat everyone up and kidnapped another person. Have you guys min-maxed how to kidnap people or something? You're 2 for 2 at this point, and are scarily efficient at it. They tried a hostage situation the data ROM back, and even though I beat up this big man and take all his shadow Pokemon, Net still wusses out and gives the ROM back. He thought he was being 2 steps ahead because he saved all the information on his server already, but Cypher just logs on and deletes everything anyway. Net says the only thing he remembers from the ROM was that Cypher was behind the disappearance of the SS Libra, and they're about to attack this city nearby called Fennec, and someone needs to go warn them. I guess I'm just Mr. Scooter across the desert and save everyone today, aren't I? I head to Fennec to warn the mayor about the attack, and as soon as I arrive, this lady hits me with a confetti cannon, congratulates me on being the 1,000th visitor to the city, and shoos me away to celebrate at Real Gam Tower. I try to get around her because this is important, but she's determined to gatekeep me no matter what I do. So I just go there and realize she literally sent a child to illegally gamble his life away. Wow! No one in this region likes children, do they? After not being able to figure out how to play bingo, I head back, sneak into the mayor's house, distract his house sitter with music, and find out the mayor was trying to write a note to Justy, the city's gym leader, warning him about the Cypher attack. I don't know why the mayor was trying to ask this random gym guy to help, but he was kidnapped halfway through writing it, so I guess it doesn't matter. Cypher realizes I now know what's up, and everyone in town reveals themselves to be disguised Cypher grunts. Oh my god, they kidnapped the entire town. I don't care what kind of organization you're from. If you can successfully kidnap a village, you've earned my respect. I beat up Cypher, rescue their shadow Pokemon, and free literally everyone in the town who is locked in the city basement. Justy says he saw something suspicious going on in the desert and points to another random sand spot on my map I should go investigate. Honestly, how are all these people just stumbling onto these shenanigans in the middle of the desert? And why are they able to give the latitude, longitude of these locations after finding them? This has got to be like tens of miles out from any sort of civilization. This is where people run out of gas in their car and then shrivel up and die before anyone can find them. Why were you here? Wow. Yep, that's the cargo ship. How did you find this? Alright, what is so enthralling about this desert that crime and vigilante justice is constantly going on in every square inch of this place? Cypher's running around on the ship, and after I take their shadow Pokemon and chase them out, this group of strangers calling themselves Team Snag'em walks up and roofies me. I wake up, realize they stole my snag machine. This random old man who just started living in the wrecked boat said he saw them head off in that direction and points to the middle of nowhere on my map again. You people are beyond me. I show up and wow, another headquarters for crime. I make my way to their head honcho, Gonzap, who's trying to put on my snag machine, but he's too big and muscular and adult, and since I am a child, it does not fit on his giant muscle arm. He pretty much gives up, asks if I want to join Team Snag'em. I say yes, but he fights me anyway, and after I beat him, he's like, actually, you can have your arm thing back. We're not enemies. Awesome. So why am I here? You drugged me, stole my stuff, and then just called friendship and gave it back. I find Cypher's Shadow Pokemon Factory and walk up to the actual biggest men I've ever seen in the world. How naive I was to think Zook was big. Foolish me. Anyway, they're about to beat me TF up when Gonzap shows up, expresses his devotion to our newly blossoming friendship, and roofies them for me. Thanks, man. You're really consistent at that. I go inside and climb to the roof where their power generator is. There's a tiny little piece of paper there that says, use system lever to adjust voltage. Do not raise voltage too high. Crank! A guy comes out and starts yelling at me with his Pokemon when the tiny old man who accidentally ruined my life in Port comes on screen and is like, I'm evil and creating a Pokemon that's unpurifiable. Come get me. This is my IP address. I need to cross the ocean to get to him because he's basically on evil Hawaii. So I take this Robo Kyogre from Kaminko, speedboat my way there, and you guessed it, fight everyone in the building/volcano until I get to the big little man. After fighting an entire country's worth of people, I find him. His name's Greevil, by the way. And he's like, I'm surprised you made it this far. Ha 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 ha. Well, I'm busy, don't bother me. And blocks me with a giant pane of glass. Honestly, out of all the fictional villains I've seen, this is surprisingly decently reasonable. But I'm not gonna just sit here and stare at him behind the glass like a goldfish at PetSmart. So I just walk around and use the side door, which really sets him off. I mean, dude, either lock the door or don't have it. This is just what doors do. Greevil's like, you blew up our Shadow Pokemon Factory, you got past my glass. That's it. I'm summoning Shadow Lugia, the first Pokemon to ever be unpurifiable. Come forth and obliterate this small boy. To which I just Master Ball it. Really overlooked that one, didn't you, mate? He may not be purifiable, but he's mine now. Huge L. Greevil gets so beyond pissed that he decides to open his creepy eyes and fight me himself. And I was surprised to realize not only does he have a team of all Shadow Pokemon, but he somehow nabbed Articuno, Zapdos, and Moltres. I'll be honest, it was a really hard fight because Shadow Pokemon are super effective against all non-Shadow Pokemon. I don't know how it took me this long to tell you that, but that's how it works. So instead of trying to catch them all like I've been doing this whole time, I really just beat them up and they ran away. So I win! Cypher has officially lost everything, and it's all because of me, the little boy. Blue Henchman runs up to Greevil and is like, Sir, I have a plan. Let's blow up the island with the kid on it. Which is like, oh my god. And then Red Henchman is like, okay, that's a bit too far, man. Dad, let's go home. Yeah, they pulled the I'm your father/son twist on us, but it has very little effect on me because I do not care about these people. Anyway, they decide to not blow up the island with me on it and stop being evil, I think. I'm like 60% sure. And then happy ending, I just go home. So what do you think? For some reason, I really liked the game as a kid. I never actually beat it because I didn't know how to get past the gatekeeping woman in Fennec. Glad I figured it out this time. I also wanted to mention how lively the animations are in this game. Sure, some of the Pokemon look god-awful. They gave Houndour human knees that bend forward, but they're all just so expressive and show so much care and personality. It may be pretty sad the current games don't show this much passion, but I guess that's just what makes these games more cherishable. Anyway, the game was fun and weird. I liked it. See ya.
Hey, it's been a while. Anyway, this game also is like all double battles. I thought that was really interesting. I liked that.
Yo, este va a ser los últimos bicho que voy a matar. Ya mañana la continuaré. En la mañana. Viendo el gimnasio, la voy a continuar. 3 horas aquí en línea. Se lo hace dejar esto vendiendo. ¿Sabes que tengo que comprar más olores, viejo? Tengo que craftear más de esto. Spirit. Ahora no veo ningún mago en el servidor, así que no vale la pena hacer eso. Así que vamos a hacer los soul shots primero. Más que nadie me va a pagar aquí. Nadie tiene la plata para pagar soul shots. 10 spirit shots. Son unos 10. Yes, God. Yes, guys. Lo siento, mira, son 55.000 porque se gasta. Más bien me encontré botas hace rato. El otro día me encontré también una ermita. No una ermita, una armadurita. O sea, no me servía, pero una túnica nivel bajo, así que me hice sacrificar. Sí, estamos bien, estamos bien. Gludio, Dion, no veo nadie en Dion vendiendo. Así que voy a aprovechar y yo vendo ahí. Tal vez Gludin, ¿no? Chica esta camba, digo. 45 Blessed. No sé dónde sacó tanto Bully, cabrón. No sé dónde sacó tanto Blessed. Mira, con aquí, no va a estar rayado. Mira. Vale, por el momento, ¿no? Yo siento que aquí yo siento que hace falta alguien que venda. La gente viene aquí. Tienen que ir a farmear Tienen que ir a farmear aquí. Ahora, a mí me sale hacer estos cristales alrededor de 6, 7 de adentro. Puedo vender tranquilamente. Tranquilamente y tengo ganancias, pero el tiempo vos sabés que me tarda en crear los otros. Tengo que venderlos en 9, 10 para sacar buena ganancia. Como ahorita no hay nadie que me soltó, lo voy a vender en 2. Se me hizo ver a alguien papá, oferta y demanda. Oferta, demanda. Incluyo viaje. Aquí en Gludio había gente que vendía. Uno sabe que la oferta y demanda prevalece, ¿no? Aquí. No tengo 10 socials. Kiko, me falta 15 y 50. Este lo puedo vender en 14 y saco ganancia. Si me paro aquí al lado y aquí mismo voy a vender 14 y 45 acumulados. Esto sí me salió carito hacer poco. 14. Oh, ahí se saca. Yo tengo 45 acumulados. Social de les shot de mejor precio. Mejores precios. Social T, mejor precio. A ver, bebé, ahí. Mensaje. PSSB, mejor precio. Ahí está, pues papá. Se vende, pues se vende. Toque, vos sabés que se vende. Ahora por acá, ¿no? Borrar eso. Ahí va, ¿no? Sí, ahí está perfecto. Se puede abrir hasta dos. Hasta dos aquí yo tengo mi tiendita. Y ahorita la estoy sacando. Se puede tener dos clientes por PC. Ahorita estoy manejando la enana y el buffer, ¿no? Ya después me voy a crear mi main. Primero quiero estar estable económicamente para estar con el main. Mira aquí lo bueno, es que estoy viendo de que los buffs te dan hasta nivel 40. Soy nivel 31 y me sigue con el cubito de vida. Está posi, papá. Y yo pues no tengo nada más que vender con esto. Ya después. Ahorita voy a farmear así, ¿no? Que dropean Crafted Leather, ¿no? Dropean los basilicos. Estoy haciendo eso. Ahorita ya no me da el tiempo, así que lo tengo acá. Mañana ya volviendo al gimnasio en la mañana voy a continuar con el farmeo de eso. Tengo que sacar esa receta sí o sí. Y ni bien saqué esa, me imagino que me va a ser nivel 32. Voy a empezar a hacer la misión esa de Black Swan. Y ahí sí se va a sacar plata. Ahí es la sacada de plata. Con eso ya está uno estable económicamente. Y llego hasta 40. Me voy y busco por drop ahí en Antness, ¿no? Te tiran esta receta de Metallic Rare. No tengo mi guía. Tengo mi guía de lo que tengo que hacer. Y aquí ya. La receta. No es ese. Vaya, juraba que era ese. ¿Dónde está? ¿Dónde está? ¿Dónde está? Sí, es este. Lo copio, me lo traigo acá, me lo pego. Y aquí lo que tengo que buscar de ahí. mostrar mejor. Son dos clientes. Dos clientes por PC. Te estoy mostrando. Claro, es que pasa, mira que yo ni siquiera, como recién estoy comenzando, no hay mucha gente, así te voy a ser sincero. No hay mucha gente, pero sí, ahí estamos armando un clancito con un pelado que conocí y queremos armar algo. Ponele que somos 10, digamos, pero vi varios rusos por ahí. Ahorita no están, porque para allá pues debe ser la madrugada. Mira, ahorita estoy juntando. Estoy aquí. Ya me hice todas las recetas. Ahorita estaba queriendo farmear esta acá, la Crafted Leather, con los basiliscos. Sí, el spoil y el drop es por uno. La experiencia y la experiencia nomás es por 5. Y la arena. El spoiler y el drop es por. Y las misiones también son retail y podés donarlas y comprarlas, digamos, con arena. Eso me gusta acá, que no está desbalanceado. Mira acá, si te juntas la arena, no sé, hasta ahora me está costando un chingo subir hoy de nivel. No pareciera por 5. Bueno, hace harto también que no juego, digamos. Pero mira acá, se la puede comprar por 500.000. 500.000 las de. Sí, sí. Creo que lo que me está costando es que la enana, vos sabés cómo cuesta. Esa bicha. Por donaciones también se lo puede comprar. Aquí vende consumable. Esto acá, mira. 50. No sé no sé el tipo de cambio, no he visto todavía las donaciones. No, de hecho, sí, yo estaba intentando entrar a Catas hace rato, pero no están habilitadas. Me imagino que mañana recién se abrirán, lo que es lunes. Mañana, mañana tipo, no sé de dónde sos vos, si sos de Latinoamérica, tipo 12 se nos van a abrir para nosotros. Sí, mañana, mira. Mañana se nos van a habilitar. Así que, claro, pues entrada de una vez, subí a nivel 20 y registrate. Yo quiero subirme al enanito también mañana a nivel 20, registrarlo aunque sea. Ya total ya queda ahí guardadito. Más que nada quiero juntarme para. Sí, sí, tengo. Mira, aquí ya me hice. Me dropearon un pantaloncito y una bota temprano. 500.000 de arena. Pero igual, pues, o sea, la única quest que yo te digo que valdría la pena de comprarla sería la del spoiler. Porque es un culo hacerla esa. Pero todas las demás son cortitas, pues te recomiendo hacerlas nomás. Ya después en el segundo cambio de clase, sí depende, digamos, lo que tú vas a hacer. Digamos. Me acuerdo que hay una quest de mierda que es la del Destroyer, ¿no? Que te manda a matar como 500 bichos. No me acuerdo cuál es. Esta la del Champion, creo que. O esta del Duelista. El Challenger, creo que es. Una de esas, pero es la que te pide. La del primer cambio te sale aquí 500.000. Ocupación, ítem, primer cambio. 500.000 te piden. Como te digo, te rinde hacer las quests. Yo las hice al toque, digamos. Está súper fácil porque aquí el teleport es gratuito. Te mueves gratis con el teleport. Así que te la haces, sí, es autolearn. No, se aprenden solas las skills. Se aprenden solas. Así que sí, también te conviene un maguito. Yo mi main lo voy a hacer un maguito, un spell singer me voy a hacer. Como te digo, por lo menos voy a estar 2 semanas. Que vos sabés que tengo que conseguirme el spoil de la Carmian. Sí o sí tengo que hacer eso. Ya, ya con eso, ya tranquilo, ya lo subo al maguito. Primero está la enana, aprender. Ah, esto también te quiero mostrar. Si vas a entrar al servidor, procura sí o sí donar, viejo. Donar hay que votar. Porque por las votaciones te dan unas medallas. En esta página de aquí. Sí, hay gatito. Eso en nivel 6 tenés, ¿no? En nivel 6 tenés la arma de no grado y en nivel 20 te dan la a grado de. Igual cuando haces el cambio de clase te dan los cupones Shadow. Mira. Con eso ya no te falta arma, digamos, con eso. Tranquilo. Lo único que tenés que juntarte para tu armadurita nomás. Yo ahorita, como te digo, ya estoy de salida porque estoy hecho un desastre. Todo el día he estado acá. Me quita la gatita. Y en todas las ciudades iniciales creo que hay. Ve aquí está. Esa gata, ¿no? Ah, pues mira. Ya. Ya, papá. Yo me voy a dormir. A ver, pues si entra, yo mañana voy a loguear otra vez. Son las 8:30. Tipo 9. Son las 8:30 para mí. Tipo 9 de la mañana, 9:30 de la mañana voy a loguear. Nos vemos, chicos. Se cuidan. Ah, no, pues si estás logueando, eh, te puedo dejar un poco de arena para que no la sufras tanto al comienzo. Por lo menos para que te compres la armadura. Decime qué te vas a crear, así voy y te dejo un poquito de arena, digamos. No, te puedo dar a ver, déjame calcular. Unos 50.000 si te sirve. Dale, papá. Ya pues hablamos entonces. Yo mañana voy a loguear y ya hablamos para armar un clancito. Se